So why is Bay Meadows such an incredible place to be? I'm gonna share with you guys a deep dive on what it's like to live here, what it's like to perhaps work here, why Bay Meadows is so incredible because it's really walkable. I mean, everywhere you go, you can just kind of walk around. It's a really kind of has an urban feel, but in a suburban setting. So stick around and I'm gonna share with you everything you ever want to know about Bay Meadows. So what I think is really cool about Bay Meadows is you kind of have this hybrid feel. Everything is so close that you could possibly want. I mean, you can see just behind me, we've got a Blue Bottle Coffee, Humphrey Slocum Ice Cream. We have Rome Artisan Burgers. These are really cool spots. And just that right here, and here we have apartments, we have some office space over here. Well, let me give you a little background. So originally, when I was growing up, I grew up in Burlingame. And every time we'd kind of come down through San Mateo on the 101 South, if I looked out to my right, so that would be kind of on the west side of 101, then I would see the old racetrack. And it was a huge piece of land. Obviously, horse racing kind of died down, and they ended up developing this whole area into phase 1 and to phase 2. Phase 1 started about 25 years ago, and that is just directly west of 101. It's north of Hillsdale Boulevard and just kind of east of Saratoga. And we're gonna talk more about phase 1 in a little bit, but right now we're in phase 2. All of phase 2 kind of started plus or minus 2018, and this whole area feels super new. It's like the newest, you could say, master plan community in the whole peninsula. You don't really find real estate like this anywhere else. So when sometimes people say, oh, I'm kind of looking for something that is new and in a community, and I don't really need a huge yard, I just need something that's more manageable. Bay Meadows is kind of the spot. I feel like if you're looking more in the South Bay, more like Mountain View, want to be near the Google campus perhaps, or Sunnyvale, or parts of Fremont, or obviously the East Bay, that's all master planned. But what we have here, this is pretty unique that there's only this one little spot where you can get this kind of feel. A lot of Bay Meadows has been in the works for a really long time, and there's actually still more in the pipeline, but you can kind of see from here, phase 2. We have a Fieldwork Brewing Company over here, which I'm gonna take you across the street in a sec. We're gonna take a look at that. But it's just a really good feel of how much you can kind of get in. Just over here, there's a huge piece of land that has not even been developed yet. So I'm excited to see kind of what gets built there, but it's probably gonna be a combo of housing and workspace. Just over here, we have the headquarters for SurveyMonkey. We have the headquarters for Roblox just over here. But come on across the street, and I'm gonna show you Fieldwork first. So, like I kind of mentioned in the beginning, I'm gonna share with you guys kind of everything around, but we're just gonna kind of do some walking and talking, and I just want you to kind of get this vibe as if you are here with me walking around, what it's actually like. So we're shooting this on a Thursday. It's about 3 p.m. right now, and I think this is kind of cool. It's not that packed because it's 3 p.m. on a weekday, but you can see there's people sitting around, getting some work done, having a beer, of course. That's kind of the nice thing about Fieldwork. And you can kind of see in the back here, there's a whole bocce ball area. So if you come back in a few hours, you come back happy hour time, this is gonna be pretty packed, lots of people. I just think it's really nice setup, where you kind of have the trees here, you kind of have this container for the brewery itself, and then just up here is office space. So let's keep walking, but there's tons of office space around here. So what's kind of cool is you have so much that's right here from a live-work perspective, to have a brewery here, you have apartments across the street, you have all these kind of corporate offices. So let's keep walking down this way. And I just want to kind of give you a sense for what else is here. But while we're walking, I want to give you a sense of who lives here in Bay Meadows, who lives in this really interesting, vibrant spot. It's kind of a good cross-section of who lives in San Mateo County in general. But I remember when I worked with some folks a few years ago, they were renting locally and they had just moved, in their words, from a tiny shoebox in Manhattan. So they kind of came here, they really valued the walkability, all the shopping that's right here. I mean, it's not like there's hundreds of shops. Downtown San Mateo, which is just north of here by a couple miles, in the downtown has 171 different restaurants. Okay, so we don't have that kind of density right here because this is a little bit more modern. There's a lot of mixed use, and in downtown San Mateo, you have ground floor retail, ground floor restaurants everywhere. But what's nice about Bay Meadows, kind of from what they had told me, they love that they could walk everywhere. So if you're wanting to buy a house, and we're gonna talk about real estate in a little bit, but if you're wanting to buy something or rent something here and you want a yard, this is not the place to be, okay? But if you like something where you can kind of walk to stuff and you have some really huge public spaces, parks, basketball courts, I'm gonna kind of give you a sense for in phase 2, and then also phase 1, we're gonna kind of walk over and check out some of these areas. But you can see just right here, we have Workday, we have Freshworks, we have Upstart, we have a One Medical. Let's just take a look over here, actually. If you can kind of take a look at Roblox. And it's nice because when it's lunchtime, obviously you can eat in the office if you want, but kind of down there, you can just walk to Rome. There's a lot of different spots. And then just across the way is Hillsdale Shopping Center. And that actually several years ago underwent, I think it was a couple $100 million renovation at the shopping center. And I kind of grew up going to Hillsdale. There's a Nordstrom, Macy's, California Pizza Kitchen, Templeton, PF Chang's, all that. There's a more modern part of the mall too, which has an Apple store, Pinstripes bowling alley. There's a really good Mexican place there. So that again is just like a probably 5-minute walk or less, like from Roblox. And if you live over here in any of these apartments or townhomes or single family homes, you're gonna be able to access that pretty easily. The other thing that makes this location really nice from a community perspective is we're so close to Caltrain and 101. So Caltrain is actually only like a block that way, and it kind of runs parallel with El Camino, which you might be familiar with. So you can take the Caltrain, and there's a bullet stop here at Hillsdale. So if you're gonna work down in the valley, for example, it's only gonna take you like 25, 30 minutes to get all the way south. And if you work in downtown San Francisco, you can still hop on the bullet train here, and you're up there in a half hour. So this location is super central and awesome from that perspective. Also for 101 commuting, you can easily just pop on at Hillsdale Boulevard, right across from where the Whole Foods is, and boom, like you're golden. All right, I just want to show you here because we're kind of walking around. There's still more to be built here. I mean, take a look. You have the chain link fence here. You have a couple blocks away was where we originally started. And this is all going to be built out, in the next few years. I'm not exactly sure what will be built here, but I think it's going to be a kind of a combination of what we've already seen here. This parcel here, if I had to guess, was several acres. And then across the street, we have another parcel that's another few acres. It's cool to see what they're doing. I will mention just over here is Nueva. Nueva is a private school started in Hillsborough, and they recently opened a campus here several years ago. There's no other school that's in Bay Meadows. So if you're kind of envisioning like, okay, you want to buy or rent or be able to like walk your kid to school, Nueva is pretty exclusive and there's just not a lot of spots there. And so you're just not gonna be able to like walk to like the typical neighborhood public school. There's another one just on the other side of Hillsdale Boulevard, just south in the San Mateo Village neighborhood, George Hall. But I wouldn't say this checks the box from like that school perspective if that's something that you're looking for. Now you can just kind of see down here. Look at this huge hole in the ground. I mean, you can see the like construction. Obviously, they're probably gonna put a parking garage underneath here because that's what developers do underneath to maximize space. But I'm excited to see kind of how that gets developed. All right, so in Bay Meadows here, there's over 15 acres of open space and parks. And this is like actually one of the smallest ones. This is basically just greenery here. And what's nice is when you kind of look at the space that's here, over there is where we just were like a minute ago. And that's where there's gonna be whatever they're gonna build there. And then here though, these are all rentals, condos, which is very interesting. So some you can see kind of on the outside, it might be hard to see, but some on the outside, you can just kind of walk up to the unit. Some you can go inside, take an elevator up. What I do like about Bay Meadows here, if you're looking to rent, is they have some short-term options. So I've had a few folks who sold their properties. They needed something to live in kind of short-term. And so they do have month-to-month rental options. And if you're looking for something like clean and nice and new, there's not that many options in San Mateo County where you can kind of check that box. Whereas in the South Bay, you have a lot more of that. If you're in San Francisco and Soma, you're gonna have a lot there. But this is pretty cool from that perspective. So when Bay Meadows was originally kind of conceived of the mixed use from a housing perspective, it's nice that there's condos, but they're not really condos that you can own. We would just call those apartments. Those you can rent. But from a purchase perspective, almost everything's a townhouse. The townhomes here are typically 3 levels. So you'd have a garage on the bottom level. All right, so most of these properties we should just pause here and acknowledge this beautiful piece of hardware, this Sprinter van with an awesome DMOS shovel in the back. They have some extra fuel. I just love this. I love getting out myself and doing some fun adventures. But anyways, back to the garage situation. So you can either have like a 2-car side-by-side or the tandem, and then you'll kind of have like a half a flight of stairs and go up to the second level, which is like the main level for where you would enter the house. And that's usually like living area. So you're gonna typically have like a pretty open concept in there. So you have the kitchen, you'll have a living room. Sometimes you might have an office or a bedroom on that level. And then you'll go up another flight of stairs, and then there will be all the bedrooms up there. On some of the single family homes that you can see here, those actually might even have like another level on top, which is pretty cool, on the 3rd level with like a loft area. And then I've seen a couple of those where people have had solar panels, just like a really cool entertaining spot. It does get a little warm and exposed up there, but I think it's still pretty cool. There's only several dozen single family homes in Bay Meadows, phase 2, and then there's several dozen of them in phase 1. Those can get pretty pricey, like up to about $3 million in phase 2. There's only been like a few sales over the years. Phase 1, they're a little bit less pricey just because those are a little bit older. Those are a little bit closer to the freeway. So you do have some freeway noise over there. So if you're really sensitive to that, you'd probably be more drawn to like the western part of phase 1 or phase 2. And then from a townhome perspective, prices in here are gonna kind of range starting like in the mid 1s up to about like 2-ish. That's kind of about like the ballpark for what things cost to buy here. There's gonna be a mix though. There's gonna be some 2-bedroom townhomes and 3-bedroom townhomes. We would just call these regular houses, but obviously they're shared walls, so they are technically townhomes. townhomes. But when you're inside, like from my understanding from clients who've lived here, you're not really hearing any noise from people next to you, especially because there's no one above you, there's no one below you. It's just kind of like pretty comfortable. So in here, you can see, for example, these are all rentals. And then we're just about to pop into this park here, which I want to show you. So let's kind of walk over here. So it's pretty cool, like at this time of the day, to see this many people like at the park. I guess maybe it's a little bit after school. There's some kids playing basketball, but we'll get over there in a second. But kind of back to what I was mentioning about the real estate. You just have so many really good options here. We do have something called the Melrose District, which I think is worth mentioning if you're thinking about buying here. California allows developers, when they build out infrastructure for a large development, to float a bond and basically build out the cost of the infrastructure and borrow kind of against that. And then there's a tax that's assessed over a 30-year period for every parcel. So in California, we have 1% of your purchase price is paid per year in property tax, and then that kind of goes up, usually like 1 or 2% per year. And then usually have, like, depending on the area, 1/10 to 1/4% of local taxes. So you have state and local taxes. From a budgeting perspective, most lenders will say you want to be about 1 1/4%. But you have an additional tax here, which on a $1.5 to $2 million purchase is not insignificant. I think it could be like $7,000 to $8,000 a year, something like that. So that's in addition to what you're already paying. So you are paying literally a tax or a privilege for like this kind of new feel. It hasn't been something that, in my experience, has really turned people off. It's just something to be aware of. But you could also say, hey, that's a negative, or you could go buy a townhome or a house somewhere else where that's like kind of a non-issue. I think this is really neat. So you basically have housing. These are all townhomes that people own right here. And these are all pretty good square footage. They're all like probably 1,800 to 2,400-ish square feet. I'm kind of ballparking a little bit, but you can basically live over there, and then you can walk across the street here and you have a playground, you have a basketball court, you have all this like green space, and you can kind of see there's people like walking all the way over there. And then over here you have the apartments. So you kind of get like some mixed use. I think it's pretty cool. Also from a parking perspective, you don't have to pay for parking. So it's just like a regular neighborhood. I mean, they do have signs that say like you can park for 2 hours and whatever, that's fine. Otherwise, I think you can get a parking permit here too. All right, so we just came from the park there. This is Bays Road and Duran Way. Actually sold the property on that Bays a few months ago, which was a 2-bedroom townhome, and that was sold in the mid 1.4s. And I sold another one for about $1.6 million. But these are really nice. So it's kind of cool if you kind of look down here, and these are all like 2-car attached garages. So you kind of roll in here, and then this is like kind of, I think, the kitchen like right here, and then that goes all the way like through the length of the property. And then the 3rd story there, those are all the bedrooms up top. So we're not going to walk all the way down here, but you can kind of see like the little wood enclosure. Those are people's air conditioning units. So that is nice that people have air conditioning. We have some like PG&E stuff, but we're going to walk up here, and I just want you to get a sense for like how neighborhoody this feels. So right now we're on Longden, and I just wanted to show you this in here because this is so cool. It's kind of, they feel like row houses perhaps from New York or Washington, DC. I mean, these are kind of loose descriptions I'm giving, but you can kind of see back here. So there's 5 units here on each side, and then you kind of have this like grassy area in between, which I think is pretty cool. You can kind of see people are starting to decorate for Halloween, which is coming up in a couple weeks. And let's just keep walking through here. And it's just nice because if you have kids, you don't have a huge yard. So like you have a little bit of a community space here, and then obviously you have Paddock Park over there where we just kind of came from. And then we'll just kind of keep walking back in here. Then you have another set of a few more townhomes in here. These kind of range in value, like high 1s, it's kind of like the general sweet spot for pricing here, but they can get up to like the low 2s, kind of depending on where you are in the area. You can kind of see if we look at the ground, you got all these like, I'm not sure what kind of fruit this is, so I am not going to eat it and die on YouTube here, but it's kind of fun and cute. And these people like got pretty into their trick-or-treating. I hadn't really realized this was like such a big trick-or-treating spot that I'm showing you, but it's cool. So right now we're heading a little bit south, and we're kind of walking over to Persimmon Park, which is just gonna be down there. We'll get there in a second, but I just think this is cool, right? You have all the housing here, and then you have this really nice paved area where like you could actually ride your bike, you can walk. Just on the other side here, there's, I don't know if you can kind of see this, but like there's another walkway, and then you have some tennis courts over here. On the back side, this is actually Franklin Templeton's world headquarters. They're a huge finance company, and they even have basketball courts out there. So it's cool, like you have walkways on both sides, and then in here you can kind of, let's take a quick look, you just kind of see there's a lot more housing in there. Now, we were talking earlier about like who are some of the different types of people who live in Bay Meadows. You really get everyone, right? So if you're a tech worker, we talked about location, like this is pretty convenient, middle of the peninsula, kind of if you work up in the city, you work in the valley, you could work in healthcare because we're kind of near Stanford, we're near UCSF, we're near like Palo Alto Medical Foundation, CPMC. You actually have a Kaiser location just across the street on Hillsdale Boulevard. You have Kaiser, South San Francisco, Redwood City. So there's so many different options if you work in healthcare and you want to live here. If you work in finance, oh my God, this is cool. I actually haven't seen this here. This is neat. I want to show you. This is a tree that they kind of put on its side. Let's go check it out. You can kind of pop through here. I don't know if I can get on this here, but it looks kind of cool. Probably things that you shouldn't be doing while the camera's on you, but you know, why not? Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I like that they kind of did this. And then there's some people that have some bikes parked over there. So in terms of like the people who live here, you're getting like young couples, families. I spoke with someone a few years ago who lived in Southern California, and they had kids one kid lived in Burlingame, one lived in San Mateo. I mean, these are all grown up, and they had, so they wanted to move up here, and they just rented an apartment here to be near the grandkids while they kind of figured out if they were wanting to buy in San Mateo County or just kind of like have the little like crash pad apartment. So that's kind of nice. All right, so of course we are in Persimmon Park now, and you can just kind of walk around right into the Franklin Templeton campus. We actually have some friends who live a couple blocks away, and the husband works at Franklin Templeton. It just seems like the absolute like most perfect setup. The other big group of people who are gonna live here is if you kind of work in biotech, because what's convenient about Bay Meadows is if you work in biotech and you're in South San Francisco, this is like 15, 20 minutes, not a big deal to kind of pop up. I mean, obviously if there's a little traffic, the traffic does get pretty bad right around like 101 and 92. So just call it like it is. It's not good. But if you're not going at like major commute times, it's not a big deal. So if you're going up to South San Francisco and you work at Genentech, Roche, I mean, there's over like basically 100 biotech companies in South City. Or if you work, for example, in Gilead in Foster City, that's just one freeway exit away. That is like not a big deal at all. So we kind of have like, you know, this central location. Oh, this is cool. So obviously they have a little garden here, and I'm not gonna be shady and eat someone else's tomatoes, but I'm a huge tomato snob. I could like eat 30 or 40 of these like right now, since I just did a big bike ride today and I'm a little hungry. But this is cool. Like you can, the only other spot like this that I'm aware of in San Mateo is Beresford Park, where it's a much bigger garden. We'll throw that up on the screen right now so you can kind of get a sense. But people like wait years to get little plots over there that they can garden. This is beautiful. It looks like someone just grew like a huge cucumber. I've grown cucumbers like that at my house, and they haven't tasted that good, but that one does look good. Look at all these like huge beefsteak tomatoes. You have some nice peppers here. Gotta really want to try those. But this is cool. I mean, kudos to like Wilson Meany, which is the developer that kind of did all this. They worked with several different companies that built out the homes itself, but they developed it. They did the master plan, the entitling and all that, and they just put a lot of thought into it. So, you know, much respect to that company. All right, I just want to show you here. This is Franklin Templeton. We're not going to really go spend too much time here, but you got the course that I was mentioning, you have a beautiful office here, and you even have a map because you have like 6 buildings, 2 parking garages on the either side. And then we're not going to walk through here now. We're going to kind of come around the back side, but I can't wait to show you a lot of phase 1, which is over there, and some good stuff if you work here, what you can get to. All right, I mean, we've been walking, we haven't been rolling on the camera here, but we've been walking for like 5 minutes. Now we're heading a little bit back north to another cool spot. I'm gonna show you a park. And there's still townhouses here, but I just wanted to flag, this is another several acres of development here. Like this is the north side of Franklin Templeton with the parking garages, with a beautiful view from the parking garage of several acres of undeveloped land that's like basically all yellow right now. Obviously no need to water and landscape, something that's not that exciting, but I just wanted to point that out because there's still some like massive parcels here that will be developed as part of the next plan. There's gonna be like a 40,000 square foot like kind of community area downtown that's gonna be going in, and I'm just excited to see what continues. You know, I just want to point out, this is kind of cool. Like we're on this is a corner unit here, and these folks have added some like cool string lights on the outside, and there's not a lot of space, but you know, they have like a little cool like hammock chair, and it's nice if that's kind of what you value, is just having something like really small and convenient, but with a lot of natural light. Like these spots are a good fit for that. I think this is cool. We are now at a 4-way intersection, so we're flagging that. We were just walking up this way, and this is cool. You can kind of walk this way for more housing. You can walk that way. So it kind of, I mean, you're basically in like your own little neighborhood, and it's cool. Like there's just so much greenery around me. You know, these are all like private entrances to people's townhomes, and you can kind of see these, like I said, these are all 3 stories. But if I just am quiet for a second, let's see if we can hear anything. I mean, I can just kind of hear like one car in the background with like a muffler, you know, but if it was like an electric car or just a gas car without that, like you kind of wouldn't hear it. And it's pretty safe. I mean, you can see people, there's like Amazon packages here, there, so you're not getting a lot of traffic. I mean, I'm sure there's package theft like there is everywhere. I mean, for where we live, you know, we've had a couple packages stolen off our front porch over the years, but you know, it kind of is what it is. I should mention there's an HOA here, and the HOA fees are typically around like $400 to $600 a month, I think. And that will include common area maintenance, landscaping, and that's mostly it, right? There's not really like amenities like a swimming pool or clubhouse really. If you are renting here, you know, there is a clubhouse, but if you're buying, you don't really get too much amenities. I mean, you are paying to like maintain the roads and keep them clean and common area like electricity and all that. That's kind of how it works. All right, so we're just crossing East 28th right now. East is that way, and that's Saratoga just over there, which is kind of like, you could say the dividing line, but not really, between phase 2 where we are now and phase 1 over there, which we are gonna get to. But I just wanna show you like the massive, massive park here. It might be hard to kind of see on camera, but you can see there's some soccer goals, and you have public bathrooms. There are tons of people just out strolling around. I'm not exactly sure what the distance is around this little loop here, but if I had to guess, maybe it's like half a mile. And then just over there again is Nueva. And we've kind of, so far, what I've taken you to is everything that's over here, okay? Over there, where I'm facing now west, that's where Caltrain is. That's where Hillsdale Shopping Center is. Kind of in the beginning was Humphrey Slocum and Blue Bottle Coffee. That was all the way down there. So we're now gonna turn around and we're gonna kind of go over here, and we're gonna pop in, and I wanna really show you kind of what phase 1's all about. It just occurred to me to kind of share with you guys, if you are thinking about buying here and you kind of, this resonates, you like the style, how often do places come up for sale here? Not often, okay? So for context, in phase 1, where we're walking to now, in 2024, there has been 6 sales so far the whole year. In phase 2, where we are now, which is a little bit bigger, we have had 16 sales, and I'm combining basically all property types. So that's a mixture of single family homes. So like I said earlier, there's very few of those. So it's mostly just townhomes. So if you're looking in phase 1 or phase 2, you have about 22 properties have come on the market so far this year, and we're in October. So we're probably gonna have, it's fair to say by the end of the year, probably about 24, probably about 24 sales. So if this is an area that you do like, you know, averaging about 1 property coming in the market every 2 weeks, like you kind of want to be all over that. So definitely sign up with your realtor for some notifications to be in the loop, or follow your favorite real estate website, Zillow, Compass, Redfin, wherever you're getting your data. And I would just make sure to stay on top of that, because they just don't last that long if they come up. As a listing agent, like when you're pricing your properties that your clients have trusted you to sell, I'll provide input on, you know, where I think an appropriate list price might be. Obviously, the owner will ultimately make that decision. But like sometimes for single family homes, it can be harder, right? It's like floor plans are different, architecture is different, age of the home, when it was remodeled, what the natural light is like. There's so many factors that kind of go into that. But what I really like about in here, you're not seeing one property sell for like here and another one selling like way up here. You know, everything's like pretty homogenous. So if you're a buyer, like this just makes it a lot more, I don't want to say relaxing, because I don't know if everyone would describe buying as relaxing, but it makes it like a lot easier to kind of come up with value, because no one's blowing everyone else out of the water. Because you know, like in a month or two, there'll be another one that pops up. Maybe it's on a nicer street with, I mean, all the tree density here is pretty similar, but maybe it gets a little bit more light, or maybe it's a corner unit, or maybe it's like a little bit closer to something, an amenity that you like here. But that's kind of the nice thing about Bay Meadows, is from a pricing perspective, it's all rather like homogenous and doesn't get all stressful. Man, this is cool. We got some aspen trees. Hadn't really ever noticed these before. Super pretty. Now, obviously here we're on Saratoga, so these units here are naturally just gonna be a much better value than even if you're just like 3 or 4 units in there, because you kind of get a lot of the traffic and the cars going by here, which again is fine, but that's gonna be reflected kind of in the price. All right, this is cool. I just saw this plant with these beautiful purple flowers that I actually have in my house, and I'm taking out, there's this really cool plant app, and I'm looking to see like what it is actually called. I'll have to take a look at our plant list, but anyways, it is really pretty. I mean, I think this is what it is. Wing Pod Purslane, Portulaca Umbraticola. I'm totally butchering that, but I don't know if you can see that, like that's what it is. And it's pretty, I like it. I mean, we're just walking right now a little bit south on Saratoga, and we're on the other side of that massive lot that I was telling you about, which kind of the beautiful view from the parking garage. But it is huge. I mean, I'm so excited to see what gets built here. Just on the other side of me is Wayne Way. We're gonna kind of pop over there in a sec, but Wayne Way is part of phase 1, and you have some single family homes in there, which is really nice. And then we're just gonna pop into the backside of phase 1, which is, they kind of call it Park Place. It's San Mateo, which is the rentals that they have there, which are also really beautiful. So even though phase 2 is newer, I wouldn't say it's like nicer or better. You know, it's just different because the style of architecture is very similar. I mean, I guess if you want to really be like nitpicky, you could say, oh, in phase 1, the concrete or the asphalt, you know, looks a little bit older, but I mean, who cares? That's not really a big deal. Other than that, people still maintain their properties. They still look pretty good. The feel is very similar. So I'm really excited to show you kind of what that looks like as it kind of compares to phase 2. All right, so we're now in kind of phase 1. What's interesting is if you tell people, oh, I watched this like YouTube video of this dude talking, do you live in phase 1 or phase 2? People are gonna look at you like, you are so not cool. Like, that's just something that I'm talking about because phase 1 is what was built on, you know, a while ago, and then phase 2, as you probably already know, that's like the more recent part. But people would just say, okay, yeah, I live in Bay Meadows, or I'm thinking about renting or buying in Bay Meadows. That's kind of like what you would say and talk about Saratoga. But kind of where we walked in over there, there's a Village Hummus, a Starbucks, Tasty Grill. Village Hummus is really good. So if you're into like hummus, obviously, falafel, and pita, that's one of my favorite spots on the peninsula. So let's kind of pop in here. And I just will mention, like from a housing perspective, up here, these are actually all studios. I remember like when they built these, and I was thinking about maybe buying one of those as my first piece of real estate, and I did not. Kind of glad because I need like outdoor space for my bike and toys and stuff like that. But those are really nice studios, and they're lofts, very high ceilings. If I had to guess, maybe there's only 10 or 12 of them, so not that many. So what's cool is like right here, you know, if you live up top or whether you live in phase 1 or phase 2, it doesn't really matter. You have your own Whole Foods, which is obviously amazing. There's no other Whole Foods actually between San Mateo and north. You're gonna have to go pretty far north to get to another Whole Foods. And then the only other Whole Foods is in Redwood City. So that's a little bit of a drive. So like we live in Burlingame. This is like our closest Whole Foods. Obviously there's, you know, being in San Mateo County, you have, I don't want to use like an SAT word like plethora, but I guess I just did. There's a ton of different options. Like you have the CSM Farmers Market, which is every Saturday morning, right up on the hill. That's like a 6-7 minute drive at College of San Mateo, CSM. And that's, I mean, you can get everything there at like very reasonable prices. Obviously you can come here. There's grocery delivery services. Personally, we're huge fans of Good Eggs. It's a locally owned company. But if you live in Bay Meadows, this is probably where you're gonna do your grocery shopping. And we have friends who live here and they're like, oh my God, I wasn't even sure what to do for dinner. So I just walked over to Whole Foods and I like figured out my recipe like right then. Like that's pretty cool. All right, so I just want to point out, like from a restaurant perspective, you have some good ones. You have Poke House here. We have Shiki, which is a Japanese sushi place. Just up on the corner here, we have Mendocino Farms, which is fantastic. They're on DoorDash, so if you're into that and you don't plan to live in Bay Meadows, you don't want to drive here, you can get it delivered. Of course, you have your own Chipotle. This is the closest Chipotle kind of around. There's another one in Millbrae. There's others more south. And then you also have a Super Duper Burgers. You have a UCSF health spot here. Right over there is Kaiser. You probably can't see it, but they have a big operation there. And then the headquarters for the San Mateo Police Department. That's a pretty new structure. That just went in, I think, a few years ago, and that's right there. All right, so now we've been walking around for a little bit. Let's just pop into Mendocino Farms here and let's get something to drink because I'm getting like pretty thirsty. Oh, they got some house-made beverages. That's cool. How's it going? We just want to get something to drink. What do you recommend? What's the best? Oh, we can try them.
I love the new guava.
Okay, we're just doing a little video here on like what it's like living in Bay Meadows.
Oh.
So, how do you like working here?
It's a dream come true.
Oh, really? Wow.
Oh my gosh, Mendocino Farms is the best.
That's cool. All right, what do you recommend that we try?
Yeah, you gotta try the guava.
The guava?
It's our newest one.
Okay. Just want to drink the whole thing. The only other time I've had guava was like from Kern's growing up, and this is way better. So let me go pay for this real quick. All right, we got a little carried away here. I'm just trying the agua fresca, get your greens. Oh my God, I'm gonna try the pomegranate mint lemonade. I've been here, but I've never tried that. That is so good. Sure, why not? Okay, thanks man, that's really, thanks Gabriel. My name's Raziel, fellow angel. It's pretty good. I mean, we're just trying to showcase like what Bay Meadows is all about, and it's not like we plan to walk into Mendocino Farms and anything, and I didn't know they had those drinks, but that was nice of them to give us a little sample, and you know, we've come here before, but I haven't had those drinks, and that was really thoughtful. All right, so we're just across from Mendocino Farms and Whole Foods, and this is actually the leasing office. I just want to give you guys a quick look of kind of what it looks like, and this is cool. So this is the leasing office, and then downstairs they have a lounge and a fitness center. Okay, let's take a quick look at the fitness center so you get an idea. This is cool. I haven't been in here for a while, but why don't you pop in there, and you can see it's a little dimly lit. We are in the basement, but hey, if you're thinking about renting a place, you've got a small little spot that you can get your mojo on in here. All right, so we basically just walked for like half a block down here, and this is Saratoga Square. This is a really beautiful park. And what's cool is you have housing kind of all around the whole outside. Just over here, this is all apartments. Over here, these are all apartments. And then starting down here on Wayne Way, you have homes. And then just on the street over here on Yates, you've got townhomes. And I think you probably have a higher percentage of rentals here compared to phase two. I don't know that for a fact, but you do have a lot of rentals here. I think a higher percentage of rentals than you do like in the resale properties, because I think they're pretty lucrative like for the developer. I actually remember when I got my real estate license, this was about 19 years ago, and they were selling these apartments as condos back then. And I actually had a couple clients who were buying those, and then there ended up being some like massive litigation, like with the, I think it was something with the dual pane windows, there was like leaking and stuff like that. So they ended up just pulling the project and ended up converting them all into apartments. And by converting, like, I don't think physically they did anything different aside from fixing that window issue. But that's kind of why these are all apartments now, and I'm sure they've taken good care of them, but would have been cool if some of them were condos, because I think it'd be nice to own those. But anyways, you have a really nice park here. We are about a block, half a block from 101. So you probably can't hear the freeway because you have all these structures on the perimeter that kind of block the noise. But the units that are kind of on the perimeter there, they all have, on the side that's facing 101, they all have triple pane windows and really good insulation. And if you have plantation shutters there or blinds, like you probably keep those closed because you have a view of the freeway wall. But again, like these are awesome properties. You have a great park. Let's kind of walk around a little bit over here. The other thing I'll mention about Bay Meadows, it is super dog friendly. So you'll frequently see like in the evenings, a lot of people who have dogs, they'll be out in the park, dogs running around. A lot of people here love their pets, as do I. We have a doodle. I know it's the Bay Area, the peninsula, but like they're fantastic. So, but it is nice, like you'll see a lot of people like after work, early in the morning, like walking around in here with their dogs. It's just a relaxing feel. All right, so we've been talking quite a bit here about like why Bay Meadows is awesome. There's not really a lot to say that's like negative about this area, but let me give you a few reasons why this might not be a good fit, okay? If you want to have a house with a yard, not just like something cool and small like what we have here, this is just not gonna check the box. You know, you're probably gonna spend a little bit more, or if you spent the same thing as what you could get in here, you're just gonna be getting a home that's like way more older, a little bit more dated. That's kind of what you could expect. Another reason you might not wanna live here from a townhome perspective, because there's not really condos, there's apartments you can rent. Not everyone likes sharing walls, right? So if you're in a townhome, you're sharing walls with other people, you might not like that. Or if you're like, hey, my home is my sanctuary, it's kind of my oasis, I'm really private, I wanna see a lot of people all the time. It's probably not gonna be like a good fit for you. You know, if you're kind of like, I'd rather be up in the hills, okay, this is not a great fit because we're in the flats. People pay a premium to rent here and to live here, and this premium like might not make sense for you. So I think this is like not for everyone. In my experience, like people usually either love this type of thing, like Bay Meadows, or they're like, hey, I think that's really cool and you know, I'd like to go there, but it's just like not for me. So anyway, that's just kind of my quick thoughts on that. I just want to be real with you guys and kind of share with you like what is my perspective on everything that I like to feature like on my channel here. All right, so I've kind of talked a little bit about pricing here, but I haven't told you like what's the price range overall for Bay Meadows phase 1 and 2 combined. Kind of in the last year, the lowest sales price that we've had was about 1.2 million. The highest sales price was 3.1 million. And we kind of like average and median, we're just about $1,950,000. So it's not inexpensive to buy here. If you're watching this and you're not in the Bay Area and you're like, oh my God, that's insane. It is, like my reality is like totally warped. So let's just call it what it is. But if you're thinking about like living here, buying here, I think these prices like are pretty reasonable for what you get because you can kind of the walkability here is fantastic. I hear all the time people talk about, I really want something that's tree-lined, neighborhood feel, and that just costs more money. Like, it costs more to maintain it. People pay a premium for that kind of feel. So it's something that if you're into that and you really kind of value that, where you can be near a Whole Foods, you can kind of maybe walk to work, you can hop on 101, you can take Caltrain really easily. There's just a lot to love about Bay Meadows. So I hope you found this kind of interesting and informative, just to kind of give you this little overview of Bay Meadows. If you're thinking about making a move within San Mateo County or to San Mateo County, or you're thinking about buying your first place in Bay Meadows, I'd love to be your Peninsula real estate resource of choice. So give me a call, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.